So yesterday we have seen the basic GS papers, right? Yes. So have you seen the case studies also? No. Yes. Anything interesting in case studies? Hmm. So what will be your basic course of action? What is your first? Right? That means your family will be threatened. Will be threatened. What will you do? So what will you do? Here is also the same question, right? So you being a young civil servant, you are supposed to stop illegal sand mafia. So what will be your best course of action? What is your initial thought? Your family is being threatened. You're going through mental torture, agony, stress. So will you give in? Or will you give up? Or will you ask for a transfer? Identify the different options available to you. So instead of asking you, should Sunil do this? Should Sunil do that? UPSC itself is asking you, what are the options available to you? So you can create as many A, B, C, D, E, Fs as you want to create. Okay, so that is both a advantage and a trap. Why advantage? Because you can show your creativity, common sense. Trap because you can keep on doing A, B, C, D, E, F, but you will never come to a conclusion. So in such scenarios, critically evaluate each option. So not only mentioning ABCs, you have to also have right merits, demerits of all the ABCs. Then you have to take a stand. The first and obvious stand is given. Yes or no? I will say okay, sub-mark. Yes or no? That's the easiest thing to do. Why? No headache, no torture. All problems will be vanished. And that is the worst option possible. Next option is ask for transfer. The request for transfer. What will happen? Seniors might think of me as a weak person, but still it's okay. My life will be happy, healthy, and prosperous. Okay. Option C, continue doing whatever I am doing. Which is best option? B, transfer. Case study closed. Yes. No, third is the best option. Why? Why you want? You want to risk your life? Your kids, your husband is being threatened. Then your mother-in-law will cry. Father-in-law will put emotional blackmail. Don't be a hero. Then blackmail should be kept aside.
There is a concept in ethics, like 10 people saving 10 people over 100 people.
Utilitarian approach.
That should be used.
That should be used. So who are you saving here? Sand mafia.
Yes. I mean, sand mafia is not saving sand mafia, going against sand mafia.
You are going against sand mafia. Okay, so you are bringing in the utilitarian approach. Okay. What is the most appropriate way for Sunil?
Continue whatever he is doing with an intimation to local security authority to keep an eye.
Okay. So someone was killed earlier also, right? Are you willing to put your life at risk?
But situations won't be same every time.
Okay.
Once an officer is killed, public will know what's happening.
But that officer won't know. He's gone.
The one
right?
who passed away.
No, the present one. If something happens to you, people will know.
Because already one officer
10 years ago, but that did not make any impact, right? That is why they are coming to your office and threatening you. If they had the courage to threaten you, that means they have given up all the fear. Just think about it. You coming to a officer's residence or officer's place and threatening him that I will kill you. How much courage you should have.
The person came to the office and threatened him. There will be some evidence to prove
Threatened, that's it, right? Okay, normal
Like
case,
CCTV
2 months case.
office space.
Oh, okay, you can arrest them 3 months jail for threatening a public servant. Okay, that's it. Again, after 3 months, he will come back.
3 months we can
Hmm.
claim that 10 years back officers. Yes,
Mhm.
we can prove it.
Okay,
It's little dramatic. But it's also not.
it's this. As you said, it's dramatic. That's the problem, right? Okay, then Narayan.
You can approach higher officials for solutions
Hmm.
or guidance.
Okay. So as I said, UPSC has given every keyword with some sense, right? So the second line says the officers picked this particular subordinate. Okay, that means you have the full blessings of the seniors. So that is something that you have to take advantage of. Okay, the word picked up by bosses. So picked up, that means you are chosen not randomly or regular transfer. You are dedicatedly picked up by the higher authorities. So probably they have an interest in solving this sand mafia issue. So you might have special support from your superior authorities. That has to be drilled. Okay. Second thing, this is a similar case to a ground. So you can also cite, as I said, similar case studies. Within the case study, you can cite similar case study. You can cite Durga Shakti Nagpal as an example, like someone have done the same thing. So doing whatever I'm doing is not a wrong thing, and there won't be any ramifications if the system is supporting me. If the system is on my side, there is nothing the opposition party can do. So taking the stringent action is going with the stringent action is the right way forward. We need not be intimidated by anyone. As she has mentioned, there is a huge amount of improvement in technology, CCTV cameras, and so on and so forth. But that can also bring a lot of moral pressure. You can also use the help of your colleagues, yes, superiors, everyone. You make the entire system understand that you know that this particular officer needs a lot of support, and it is for the welfare of the entire society. You can also rope in NGOs, media to create a awareness campaign in the society also. Like if sand mafia continues, sand mining happens, what will happen to the local ecosystems, and how will it will affect livelihood, so on and so forth. So it all depends on your creativity. Okay. Yes. What about this one? Vice principal case study. Have you seen it?
Yes, sir.
Yes. What is your first thought process? What will you do?
Cooperate with the not man. Cooperate with the flying squad for further instigation of actions.
Hmm.
Like they have already caught them,
Hmm.
so there is no scope that they have to be forgiven.
Hmm.
So whatever the action that has to be taken by flying squad as per rules, what are the cooperation they need, that will be extended.
Just imagine a scenario where, you know, hypothetically, where you are taking the stand, then the flying squad got compromised. You have student support.
But that is not given in case study. No, sir. Flying squad is not getting compromised.
That is again as a hypothetical scenario.
Yes,
I am
yeah.
not saying that is what I am thinking.
Yes, in this case, the flying squad is
Hmm.
compromised with them,
Hmm.
but the students are not.
Students are demanding strict actions against the defaulters. Okay, so you will take the stand. Fine. Then why? What is your reasoning?
Has been flying squad has been seen directly. The senior faculty is supporting the two students. But it has been seen directly. That's why we can't do anything. There is no compromise to.
It will tarnish the image of the college. It will also reduce the funds for the college. It will also affect your promotion. Three things: your promotion, funds, and image. What will you do about that? Of all the case studies, this is the most idiotic case study. Okay, so don't worry about it. Yes. So, but still, you have to think in a commonsensical way, right? Why?
So why did you complete it?
Who on earth will, I know, why will I be a vice principal and UPSC exam or civil servant? Like, there are better case studies to ask, there are better ways to test. It's a no-brainer case study. He has done something wrong and I will do my job. It's as simple as that. If there is no if there is no honesty in the college, why even run the college? Merit has to be promoted, obviously. If somebody is cheating and getting promotions, okay, or clearing the exam, then what is the whole point of it? To find, if I make a case study on the part A, like the role played by family, teachers, education. So they want to frame, they want to test, how parents are reacting. If parents themselves are supporting the corruption and all those things, how education system will be spoiled. So the part A of your syllabus line, okay, they wanted to frame a case study. Probably that is why they brought in this case study. That's the only thing I can think of logically, or else it's a no-brainer. There is no logic whatsoever, right? If the businessman is supporting, debar him, he will do his own business or he will become MLA, right? There is no, but it will affect the overall morale of the rest of the students. So obviously, without even student pressure also, I will do the same thing. Okay, so I will just use the emotional intelligence of converting the students' anger into my own advantage. That is something probably I will do to save my own self and get the promotion also. I will try to convince the management that if you go further, this might become a media news that will tarnish the image of the institution even more. Okay, so it will actually act as a goodwill if you punish them, so on and so forth. So again, it hardly takes your brain power to think about this particular case study. Elevated corridor. This is again repeat of old case studies. 2013 to 2020 papers, if you have done actually, you can also address this case study. But the thing is, ethical dilemmas, professional challenges, consequences. That is something that UPSC is testing you. Consequences of overlooking. Let's say Umang has ignored or she agreed to the superior's orders. Go ahead with the flyover or traffic project, elevated corridor. So what will be the consequences? Someday it will collapse. It may or may not, right? So we are under a basic premise that the judgment of the engineer is perfect. So we have taken the premise that the initial assessment of the single engineer is final. Yes, sir. Right. So you can have second opinions. Maybe there is some shortcut without demolishing. Maybe there is some additional reinforcement. There are a number of ways, right? If it was that crucial, critical that it might collapse, the chief engineer, even in spite of political pressure, may not accept it. Just think about it. You have constructed a small pillar for a right. Obviously, if it is that risky, he will understand it might collapse. So that can be one line of thought. Again, I'm not saying you should take that line of stand, but that is also a possibility. We are prima facie convinced that the our hero of the story is correct. Okay, he may not be so correct. Okay, there might be some second opinion needed, right? Or can we do something like this? We can start the flyover on time. Okay, then put a break after the inauguration. Just hypotheticals. All are hypotheticals. I'm not saying you to do all these things, but if the political masters want, inauguration, let them have the inauguration, but won't allow heavy vehicles or something, right? You can probably stall and stop it. Okay, then again that might bring bad image to the political party, right? So what is the best course of action in such scenarios? And what if really the small engineer is correct? Let's say his words won't be respected by the seniors. If the junior engineer says it's weak, and let's assume he's correct. Okay, the senior engineering saying go ahead. You have to follow the orders. If you break the orders, then you are actually doing something wrong. Okay, that is when you have to have this dilemma. What will you do? You got the idea? You have to follow the order. There is no option for you, but in deep down you believe that it's really a wrong decision. So what will you do? he ordered you to overlook the observation. Order. You have been ordered, not even orally said. If need be, there will be written confirmation.
I would ask the engineers to substantiate their argument with right proof.
So what are the options available to you as a project manager? The first option is ignore and overlook the observation. Next,
Look for
take second opinion. Take some empirical data. If I'm proved correct by multiple engineers, by tests and all those things, then I will take the report to my chief engineer, my senior officer, and say this is what is the problem is. Okay. Then I will move to the higher ups. If the political masters and my chief engineer, everybody come to a consensus that we can just show a dummy building for inauguration purposes, then we can come back and rectify this, then I'm happy with it. But if they want to say, no, nothing will happen, keep the vehicles going, that might lead to a long-term damage. The flyover might collapse or the pillar might collapse. That will lead to a long-term problem. So we are playing with lives. So that is something that I won't be willing to accept. Okay. Indirectly, you can also think of whistleblowing. Right, that though that has not been explicitly mentioned, if people's lives are at risk, okay, then probably I will call the media and say this is the issue, which is not the right course of action until the last option. So first I have to internally start convincing people, my senior, my superior, with empirical data. If this is really such a serious problem, even they will have no other option but to say this, because on record you are saying you have a proof. So if tomorrow the flyover collapses, nobody can claim innocence. Right? Makes you smart, different, right? Contractor is relative, further promotion, all these are not even considerations. The larger consideration is life of the people, and it depends on pacifying everyone. Yes, the ministers, yes, but he's willing to be, gracious enough or understanding enough to give you the permission to rectify the small error in the long run. That's fine. But all of them are blind, you can take the worst course of action. The consequences of overlooking is it might lead to collapse of the flyovers. We have seen throughout the happening. So promotion, personal life is not that important. People's life are more important. This is what right? They have also a lot of things, but there is no case study actually there. In the last, they are asking, you are a hospital administrator in a public hospital at the time of coronavirus. A large number of people and patients are pouring into hospital day in and day out. So what are the critical justifications for putting your clinical and non-clinical staff to attend the patients? Here it's not about admitting the patients. Here it is more about using your clinical staff and non-clinical staff, exposing them to the risk. Okay. So if you are a private hospital, whether your justification and decision would remain the same as that of a public hospital, right? So in private clinics, I've seen some people saying people with fever, cough, and cold are not allowed. Outside a small private clinic, okay, doctors will put this board that people with cough, fever, and cold are not allowed. Okay, I'm not looking at such kind of patients. So that is my discretion. Even if you have COVID, a normal cold also, you're not welcome. As a private hospital, I have that choice. But you are a public hospital, you cannot deny that. Yes. So what are your criteria and justification for putting your clinical and non-clinical staff to attend patients, knowing very fully well that it is highly infectious diseases and resources and infrastructure are limited? For example, in a private hospital, I have ICU, 10-bed ICU. Okay, I will charge 3 lakh rupees. So you're rich enough or well off enough that you will take a ICU bed. Okay, so people who cannot afford, it's not my problem. But in public hospital, you cannot say no. Right, you have to admit in first come, first serve basis. Whether rich or poor, it does not matter. If you are going to a public hospital, if there is a vacancy in ICU bed, he will admit. Then let's imagine a 25-year-old is suffering from COVID and he is in ICU. Okay. Then a 85-year-old is also beside him. Then a 35-year-old woman came with COVID symptoms. So you have to choose. Yes or no? Just think about it. Or just imagine all the three came at one time and there is only one vacant bed. A 25-year-old guy, a 35-year-old pregnant lady, and a 85-year-old man. All with COVID symptoms, all of them need ICU, the ventilator support and all those things. Who will need single bed vacant in the public hospital? In private hospital, it's simple, whoever have the money. Right? And second thing, if all the three of them have money, I will probably choose a man, 25-year-old man, because his chances of survival are higher. That won't bring a bad name to my hospital. So I will have that luxury, because pregnant lady complications might arise. 85-year-old man might pass away, but 25-year-old man might survive. He has money also. So in hospital, I will choose that criteria. In government hospital, you have only one bed and 3 patients. What is the logic that you are going to apply to choose that particular person? Whom will you choose? We are applying the same criteria there. In public hospital, you have to apply humanitarian grounds and medical ethics. Whereas in private hospital, probably I can use
Money.
a lot of things, not only money, goodwill. I don't have the same obligation, right? So that is what this case study is asking. So the actual case study starts from you are an administrator. Just the last 4 lines. That is a case study. All the other thing is time waster. UPSC things. In private hospital also.
So it is more about what we are going to talk to our staff for roping them in for services, isn't it, sir? What are your criteria and justification of putting your staff to attend the patients?
See, the doctor might have the altruistic principles. The individual doctor might have altruistic. Even in private hospital, if somebody is paying me 1 lakh rupees, or 2 lakh rupees, I may not go on work. Okay, I can decide to stay away from work for 3 months. If I don't work, it doesn't mean that sky will fall down. As a doctor, my served, I think they went with altruistic principles, whether in public place or private place, both the places. The doctors wanted to serve the humanity, the greater humanity. So at individual level, the doctors were very conscious. So were the nurses, the staff, people who were working in this, ICU, non-clinical staff, the lab support. Everybody knew the risks. Okay, still they work not only for money, probably for the altruistic motive that I am here to serve the public. Right? So that is one thing that we can think of, justification for putting your staff. Okay, and somebody has to do the job.
Yes, sir. It is more about that rather than whom we are going to admit. So
That is the second part, right? The first part is how will you make your staff work? The next one is resources and infrastructure are limited. So maybe you can also extend it to having less PPE kits. Yes, less number of ICU beds. And even the doctors will have to go through a lot of trauma, right? People will be dying, the people right? Yes. She died because of COVID 2 days or 3 days later. So many doctors know that whatever they are going to see, those people might die. Still, they have to work. So, what are your criteria? So, in public place, welfare maximization. In private place, profit maximization. But in both the places, humanitarian grounds can be one common criteria. So, like this, you have to think of contemporary examples. As I said, nobody can teach you all these things, right? Exactly in the exam hall, you have to think how private hospital. This is something we see in the society on a daily basis. This is a really important case study, right? Because the question is not about individual, the question is about organization. Which action do you visualize should be taken by the competent authority against the company? Here you have to think of an organization, the rules. You are the Food Security Standards Authority of India. In this particular case study, your FSSAI rules have to be, FSSAI rules have to be applied. Yes. And the interesting thing is, from solution part also, you have to think like the company. Your image is damaged. Is there a way to salvage your image? You are now no longer an individual. You have to think of organizational values, organizational ethics. Organization. Normally, ethics is about individuals. We think in the individual terms like civil servant. So here you have to think of an organization. Yes. So again, see, if the company is selling rejected goods or rejected foods or not meeting the quality, it's not an accident. It's a choice. The company has deliberately chosen that particular route. Okay, now they cannot claim innocence. That is point number one. So is there a way for the company to resolve the crisis?
Yes, sir, it's never too late.
Can you think of any contemporary example of a company doing
Maggi.
this? Maggie never lied, right? MSG. It always said we are having MSG. Any company deliberately doing something wrong in the recent times. Recent means last decade also will do. Not only in food.
Coca-Cola,
What did they do?
pesticides,
Okay.
they mix which are harmful for the survival. Even though, despite knowing this fact, they sell.
We drink.
That's against it.
So is it the car?
Volkswagen. The famous case is Volkswagen's case. Carbon emissions and Volkswagen manipulating the carbon emissions. Anything else?
Freedom for during demarcation.
Freedom 251. I don't think that is a scam, right? That is not even a company.
So the recent honey, sir.
Dabur honey, the honey incident. Okay, but many companies denied that adding flavors. But Down to Earth has proved that almost all, except 2 or 3 companies, every company is using adulterated products. I have my doubts because the problem is 40 to 50% of Indian goods are, adulterated. The company probably is manufacturing good honey. When it is coming down the line, probably there is some kind of manipulation. Because in paints, oils, yes or no? Even in pepper, there is adulteration. They mix this papaya seeds, right? So companies may be doing that, but there is also a chance that supply chains will use their own creativity. I was told that there are a lot of domestic manufacturers of paints. All they will do is take this big brand, packaging and put the local paints. Why? Even food also. If you go to any supermarket nowadays, they will say Fuji apple, or this is a product of New Zealand. I seriously doubt how authentic it is that it is from New Zealand. The only proof is sticker. Yes. Apples, even banana also, right? The so-called yellowish banana. The higher the yellow, the more adulterated it is. Yes, chemicals. So even in hotels also, we don't have hygienic standards, right? They have 2 days old curry, 3 days old curry. They make it warm. It tastes better. Yes, all these things are happening. Adulteration of food is a very, very common thing in all the spheres of life. So Food Safety and Standard Authority of India has to take a very stringent action. It has to make that particular company a case study. Like if you go for wrong practices in India related to food, you will be punished very, very severely. So you have to come down as heavily as possible. But that part is very clear. FSSAI will come down very heavily, fines will be laid, the company's license and all those things will be tested, random sampling will be increased, other company samples will also be tested. So all the culprits will be caught. But the course of action available to the food company to resolve the crisis and bring back its lost reputation. Is that possible? That is where your creativity will come into the picture. Okay, so that is totally your answer. What? Just tell me one or two examples. What, according to you, is the best way for the company to resolve the crisis? Collaboration with
Food companies.
other food companies.
Other company which has a huge reputation in the market. Collaborating with that company and releasing combined products.
Let's imagine your Apple company. Okay, so as you said, Freedom 251, last reputation. I will call you. Can we please collaborate? What will you say?
I will not know.
So
They should try hard for
they should try hard for collaboration. Yes, Raghunath, will they work?
but when there is government
Pressure. Why will government pressurize?
money, sir.
Money. 251 rupees. Huge money. Yes. Yes.
So the company should actually rectify its mistake.
We should make sure that FSSAI should make sure that. Okay. Internally, company should also identify why it happened. If it is in common knowledge, all the way till the board of directors, everybody should be replaced.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If it was done something at a lower cadre level, like some manager could, become hyper creative and all those things, they should be fired, or the company should issue open apology, right? It should make its processing more transparent, accountable, so on and so forth. Yes, and I don't think it's that easy to bring back the lost reputation, especially in food. It's a very, very sensitive issue, right? It depends on the moral character of the company, the organizational values. If the organization values were compromised from top to bottom, then there is no saving of the company. If the organization values are hampered at individual pockets, that can probably be rectified. So there can be short-term approach and long-term approach. In the short term, these are the things I will do. In the long run, I will make sure that this will never happen to the company. It will only add goodwill to the company.
And after this, sir, they can rope in good public personalities for
Advertisement.
to improve their credibility.
Credibility. Okay. Okay. So you have seen this particular case study, right? Pawan case study. Pawan is an officer. The superior is insulting Pawan every day. So because of this, Pawan got a lot of mental stress, tension, and he is showing it on professional life. All the emotional happiness is gone in his life. So he's full of tension, and stress. No happiness whatsoever. He lost confidence, morale, everything. So you understand it, right? Boss is frustrated because of his personal life. That frustration is carried into Pawan's. Pawan's personal life is also destroyed. Okay, so this is a typical case study, and in reality also we see a lot of such officers. Okay, so what UPS is asking you is, what are the options available to Pawan to cope up with the situation? What approach Pawan should adapt to bring peace, tranquility, and congenial environment to office and home? Okay, what are your suggestions for both boss and subordinate? What type of training would you suggest?
He should practice yoga.
He should practice yoga, meditation. Who boss? Both. Okay. Yes. What are the options available to Pawan? First one is transfer. The first and simplest option is transfer. I don't like my boss. I want to work in a new office. Problem solved. See, before this boss, I had confidence, I had morale, I had a good personal, happy life. I'm a good worker. Everything I had. All those things are lost because of this particular boss. Organization has nothing to do with this. Organization and I are good. The only problem is this idiotic boss who does not care about organization values, work culture, work ethics, right? And personal spaces. Because of him, I'm being suffered. So the simplest solution is I will take the transfer and problem solved.
There will be some other power who will suffer.
Oh, other Pawan who will suffer. That is the other Pawan's problem, right? That at least I have the option.
No, then that is not being ethical, sir.
Why ethical? 100% ethical, right? I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not escaping my job. I'm saying I will work in some other department.
Fully knowing well that the next incoming officer would suffer.
See, there are that then everybody has to complain, right?
The upcoming officer might not have a family.
You know, he might give
That's not it.
no, he might give the torture back to the boss.
Yeah. And so Pawan cannot assure that he might not have the same type of boss at the
He
next.
will again apply for transfer.
Other than transfer option, he can sit together with boss and discuss what's the
If he
problem.
had that amount of common sense, do you think he will be doing all these things?
No, that is why we're seeing one more. This option is there.
This option is there. Okay.
Two friends are like they are in the forest and one tiger is coming. So this save the tiger. He's being
Why?
unethical in the sense.
He is saving his life. Ethics will apply only when you are alive, right?
But it's similar. That is the similar case with this one.
That is what I said. Escape happily to get transferred. Why should you be bothered about next Pawan?
But moral of the story is not that.
Ah.
The moral derived is the two people are like.
Again, we have not discussed about the food of the tiger. Yes or no? We are being unethical. What about the poor hungry tiger? It should eat someone.
But leaving the friend and going away is
Not a, so what? Both of them should sacrifice their
both
life.
of them should
Sit together.
no.
Hmm. Yes.
That's how they should save themselves. And
How?
save their time.
Save them from tiger. Save the tiger also.
No.
Yes. You get the idea, right? Again, as rightly pointed out, the first option is not the right option because you are not solving the problem in the long run. And as long as you take chances, you might find even a worse boss. Okay, yeah, the next guy might be even more, torturous than this particular guy. So you are not solving the long-term problem. You are only solving a temporary solution, and it is an escapist attitude. Morally speaking, it is not wrong if you think about your own personal life, like your wife and all these people are suffering. So if you overweigh organization values with personal values, I am taking the personal values a higher ground and I am getting away. So that is a loss to the organization. That is a loss to the organization because not only here it is about Pawan, right? It is about the work culture. The entire work culture became toxic. That is the term UPSC uses. Okay, it gets toxic. So toxic is not a good environment to work in. Okay, so the first thing you should do is make the boss realize that this is hampering the entire organization value system. Okay, so what I will do is I will first of all talk to the boss and convey him that this is what you are doing to me. This is neither good for you nor me. If the boss does not listen, then I will go to the higher ups. Okay, if they are also not in a position to understand, then I will do the escapism mechanism. But escapism mechanism is not my first option. Okay, if the higher ups, everybody is blind to, if they are okay for the organization to be destroyed by these kind of people, but they are not worried about the welfare of the, then I won't have any loyalty towards the organization. I will take my own route happily. But now because the organization has treated me well and I have loyalty towards the organization, I want to create a healthy work culture. I will try to rectify this. Okay, then probably exercises like team building exercise, participating, meeting offline. So these kind of exercises might reduce the friction. The organization should also try to have some, counseling sessions. Yes or no? seminars on work cultures and all these things. This might provide some relief to both the boss and this particular individual. Informally, you can also bring pressure to the boss or family and friends. You might try to create this atmosphere where he might understand like how he is affecting the entire lower cadres, because Pawan is only one person, right? We don't know how many powers are there in the entire department. Yes. So right. So that long-term solution has to be thought out. As an outsider, what are your suggestions to both boss and subordinate to overcome this situation and for improving their work performance, mental and emotional hygiene? Right? Having a lot of negativity towards the boss, Pawan might snap and kill the boss. Even better solution. Yes or no? Oh, accidentally he fell from 40th floor. I don't know how. So, okay. Right? Accidents do happen sometimes.
Did you watch this movie called Badsha? NTR Badsha. In that, Nazir will be very commanding, dictating, and the entire family will be affected. So, one of the someone will be the NTR will make you frustrated and realize this Nazir that everyone is getting affected because of that. So, how to correlate?
I don't think it's Badsha. It's Badsha only. Badsha. Okay.
Like they'll create some artificial environment and make this example that this guy is affecting from some problem and explain it to Nazir.
I don't think in 15 marker you have the luxury to write a movie script, right? So I understand what you are trying to tell, but that can be explained in a more appropriate way using certain keywords. Right? Training, regular training, counseling sessions, yes, practicing yoga, meditation, vipassana, and all these things will also reduce the stress to the employer and employee. Again, as I said, in the AC room, in the comfort of the thought process, we will have the luxury. But once you see the principal case study and all these case studies in a line, you will be very, very frustrated. And that frustration will carry on to the answer writing also. Okay. But if you don't practice regularly, reading such a lengthy case studies and trying to think of all the alternatives will be very, very time consuming. It will take around 1 hour 45 minutes or 1 hour 50 minutes just to write all the case studies only. Then in the last 1 hour 10 minutes, you have to write this section A part. Again, these are very, very torturous. Yes or no? So A, what is your stand?
But obviously, 2 dimensions. So first dimension would be yes, it is violating ethical dimension. Proper rehabilitation with extended handholding should be the way forward. And second dimension would be if there is a national security threat, then there is no following the principle of non-refoulement. We can happily deport them. Is the second dimension, because national security comes first. The security of whole nation comes first rather than refugees.
But how do you put that in ethical perspective? The ethical terminology.
Utilitarian way of thought. Protecting larger masses rather than few people who have migrated facing persecution. So that would be the right approach if there is letting them be persecuted is unethical.
That is your first choice or last choice?
So first choice would be Okay, if the first dimension would be if there is no national security, we will do handovering, rehabilitate them. That and all will happen.
So refoulement is last option, right? Like sending deportation is the
Yes,
last option. Right. Have you read this article?
Yes, sir.
The sail that Indian diplomacy statecraft needed. This is in today's Hindu. There are two good articles in Indian Express and Hindu today. One is by Raja Mohan, the other one is by Venkatesh Varma. So this article more or less talks about India's foreign policy and what should be the changes. We can also link it to Raja Mohan's article. The theme here is, there is a wonderful line, unipolar Asia. So we generally talk about unipolar world. Unipolar Asia, where Russia and India are not so dominant. The only dominant player is China. So that's a very nice way to understand the thought process. So we will try to look at the themes that are happening in the world. USA is a superpower. So we have USA, we have Russia, we have European Union. My bad. Okay. So what is our article is saying is Central Asian countries have a lot of influence, but India do not have direct access. That is restricted. Yes. Pakistan is not allowing us. China is not allowing us. USA is not allowing us. So all these things are happening. India's access to Central Asian countries. While we are happily focusing on Indo-Pacific, no doubt about it, there is no need to stress about it. We should focus on Indo-Pacific. Indo-Pacific, we have a lot of support. Quad, AUKUS, all these things are being happily focused on Indo-Pacific. But what about this? Okay. And if we link Raja Mohan articles, India is being suffocated. Russia is being suffocated. If we to link both the articles, in its own level, India is being suffocated. In its own way, Russia is being suffocated. Who is left?
China.
Unilateral Asia will be promoted. By whom? Thanks to the contribution of USA and European Union. That is not at all good for the world. Right? So this is the summary of both the articles. If you read both the articles, he goes on to explain how the Central Asian countries created their own enemy. They failed because of kleptocracy, corruption, and all these things. So it's purely the blame game goes to the Central Asian countries. But still, Russia is a player. Russia deserves that role, and Russia has the influence. Purely money is not going to help USA or European Union. And it won't also help China also, but it is still increasing China's access. China is having a good access in.
But US have its own apprehensions with Russia also.
That is what he says. You give enough breathing space. You see, we cannot live in hesitations of history, right? We cannot be bogged down by limitations of history. So you don't want to create your own nemesis. And Russia even now is more interested to engage with USA. It is bringing that discussion of Ukraine for what? To engage more with USA. So that some amount of sanctions will be removed. But there are hawks within USA. Hawks are the foreign policy analysts or military analysts who think just like that. If you give this much amount of scope to Russia, that is not good for America. So that kind of regressive thinking or that kind of hypo-secure thinking has led to the sanctions and all these things on Russia. Yes, that is not helping anybody. So did that policy work? Anyhow, Russia is still annexing Crimea, Ukraine. It is creating a lot of stress for you. In spite of being a more or less, a small economy, but still Russia is having a lot of legacy influence. Yeah, India did not get choked by European Union, but USA through Iran. India through Iran, Chabahar port, then to Central Asian countries. I'm supposed to have that free access. But in Iran, there is a port called as Chabahar port, and there are sanctions on Iran, so which is not allowing the Iran sanctions on Iran. Yes. Why we cannot access Afghanistan? Because of Pakistan, right? And China also.
So he says the European, more or less, these people are not European Union,
Who?
Central Asian countries. He says so these people feel the West is dominating. West is the Western European Union is inhibiting the strategic autonomy. These people strategic autonomy, and so like why is he bringing in that discussion? I didn't understand.
Which one?
Like in Rajamohan's article, he divides European Union into two, East and West. The eastern part, which are Central Asian republics, and the western part is Germany, France, and all. These people are more or less dictating the terms of these people. So I didn't understand why he brought in that discussion.
So what he basically says is, within European Union, there are two groups. One group feels that, we need to have more autonomy. Okay. The other group feels it's okay to be taking the support of USA. Okay. So this group feels we need to have more independent autonomy and all those things. Then we will dictate the terms and conditions. Okay. So there is a divide within European Union. Which side to be taken?
No, why is he bringing in that debate, sir?
Because of the
that
rupture, it is not able to fully focus its energies on synergizing the energies in Central Asian republics or Eurasian countries. See, USSR is broken down into 15 small countries, right? 15 or more countries. So all those countries are not having good relations with all the countries. Some of them are happy to be with European Union. Some of them are still having that connection with USSR. Some of them are under the influence of Belt and Road Initiative. Like this, there is a huge amount of diversity. So if European Union is having its own diversity, then there is no coherence. There is no uniform policy on how to approach the particular issue. So all these things are being all these advantages are taken by China. Okay. So this is one more thought process. Two important articles. I think Rajamohan article may not be long-term utility, but definitely Venkatesh Anand article is having a lot of good keywords. It is having keywords. It is also having some value addition. So this is the same logic brought on by Happyman Jacob also, if you remember. Striking the right balance between continental and maritime security will be the best guarantee for long-term interests. Its own interest, that is called as strategic autonomy. Whatever we do, we should do it for our own national interest. We should not blindly follow the policy of any one country. We should, it's time that we take the so this is also one core theme of his argument. US will be diverted. US attention will be occupied in a lot of places. That may not help India's case. Yeah. I hope you understand. Major themes. So these are the major themes. I don't think there are any other important things that are happening in the newspaper. One is WTO's classification developed, least developed and developing countries. And China, India and China is having an issue there. What else? What is in news? COVID pandemic. We all know. Lockdowns. Punjab issues. Don't you think it will lower the morale of the security forces? If you overplay the Prime Minister's security breach, don't you think it is reducing the morale of the security forces? Is it really a security breach?
They're actually, as far as my understanding, they're actually unaffected by all this politics. They'll always continue to do their duty whatsoever is happening. That has been the case all over, what I feel.
In France, the Prime Minister was hit with eggs and all something on his way to board a plane or something. And it was not a big thing. And in India, these were protesters, and in democracy, it is so possible that they meet their prime representative in this way. Why is it a very big issue?
He smartly converted it to a life threat, right? So now the issue is about life threat.
He was hit with eggs.
That is a thing I'm saying, right? I clearly remember there was this IIT Bombay, I guess. Barack Obama, when he came to India, he went to IIT Bombay to meet some students. Then he interacted with the students in an open platform. They were discussing. He shook hands with some students. So the next day in the newspapers, in Indian Express, I read this. A student said, I never shook the hand of my local MLA, but I shook the hand of a US president. Right? So that shows that there is an elitist attitude in the politicians of India. Okay, that they belong to a different class. They are not supposed to mingle with local populace. So there is, for security reasons, we have our own historical baggage. So does USA. So many US presidents were also killed in the line of duty, right? So it depends on how you look at it. I think they have finally converted it into a political issue. Sympathy votes. But I think it's not good for democracy in the long run. You cannot milk everything, right? You should not. Again, I won't blame Prime Minister, right? I will. If I have to blame one person, that is Indian media. Then the opposition parties. If you cannot bring a Prime Minister to a press conference, what are you doing? Why are you even existing for? There is a Punjabi line. Why are you alive, Fateh Singh? There is an idiom. It's a modern idiom. It says, "Why are you alive, Fateh Singh?" So there was a guy called as Fateh Singh. So he made a promise that if I don't live up to it, or if something does not happen, I will commit suicide or something like that. So he failed to do that job. Then people started coming and asking, "Why are you alive, Fateh Singh?" Right? In the same way, why is Indian media alive? Yes. What is the purpose of media? To bridge the gap between government and people. It's a two-way street. What is happening with the people, system should know. What is happening in the system, people should know. That's the bridge. That is the role of media. So the world's largest democracy cannot bring its own prime minister to a press conference. Ask him what is his favorite sweet. I have no problems. You don't ask him complicated questions, no problems. But at least you should have that ability to bring him onto a press conference and make him talk. Right? And irony is, people call him a good orator. If that is the case, let him take some questions. I'm not asking political questions. I will ask you, what is your favorite, movie? Who are your best friends? What is your favorite dish? How many hours you sleep? Oh, okay, press conference done. But at least that will remove all the criticism, right? So next week, probably you might get used to this press conference thing. Somebody might ask you, what is your opinion about farmers bill? Then he will say, I have introduced a good bill, but unfortunately it has been politicized. Then people will know your side of the story. Right now, everything is hypothetical. Or else, Akshay Kumar will interview a movie actor interviewing one more politician. Right? That is not a press conference. They are called scripted questions, scripted answers. So, I put 1% blame on the Prime Minister. The entire blame lies on Indian media. The next group is opposition parties. Yes or no? Opposition parties. And luckily, we don't have any such thing in India. So we did not even ask opposition, why are you alive? They themselves have declared their self-dead. Yes or no? Think about it. We have Republic TV, Arnab Goswami. Yes, he shouts on everything else. Yes, but he won't have the courage to ask Prime Minister a random question. So again, the third party is people who believe that this is entirely democratic setup. We have 400 channels at this conference in 8 years. Sir, you are being very critical. The so-called silent Manmohan Singh, who I was not a fan of, I used to criticize him also. At least he had the courage to go to the press conference. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had more press conferences. The so-called Manmohan Singh. Yes. Right. Jayalalitha is very highly educated. She gave left, right, and center. Right. She can handle herself.
It's nice to meet you. The interview, it's not nice to meet you.
And again, he has his own historical, let's say, hesitations of history. His own word.
You are not an individual, right? You are a system. See, in your personal life, you can do 10,000 things. Then you should stay private. If you have historical issues, you should not become a prime minister, right? So once you are in the position, you are accountable by default. I am not talking about Prime Minister Modi. I am talking about Prime Minister of India. Right? I am talking any Prime Minister of India. Even if tomorrow Rahul Gandhi becomes Prime Minister or Yogi Adityanath becomes Prime Minister, they should also be held accountable. It's the system of Prime Minister of India rather than individuals. Okay. So the media is an institution, Prime Minister is an institution. I am talking about those two institutions rather than individual. Right?
Like Prime Minister Modi, before he becoming Prime Minister, he gave these interviews to Rajdeep Sardesai and Karan Thapar, and he was used to these loaded questions all the time.
That is job of the media, right? See, as a politician, did you stop doing loaded actions? No. Are we not? Every media outlet out there, okay, they will only ask loaded questions. The very purpose is to ask loaded questions. It is your job to answer what you wanted to convey. Right? Yes. See, again, not going into personal details, Prime Minister Modi was more than happy to go to China because China is the only country which did not have a visa ban on USA. And Prime Minister Modi, because of Godra rights, Prime Minister Modi's visa was banned by all the international communities. USA did not allow him, so on and so forth. After he became Prime Minister, they revoked the visa ban. So they did not take it personally, right? Prime Minister Modi is not an individual for them. Prime Minister of India should have visa. Case khatam. If you understand it, right? So it's an institution. Indian Prime Minister is a respected body. Okay, the moment he was elected, America withdrew the visa, ban. Right? It's not about personality, right? It's about institution. Okay, people of India respected him and elected him as Prime Minister. If they people don't have a problem, I don't have a problem. So the institutional respect came to you. You got the point, right? So that institutions are more important. It's not about one individual or two individuals. It's about the macro thought process. Again, people are not even bothered about all these things. And as Winston Churchill says, we deserve the leaders we choose. We should not have a 1% of regret. And India totally, yes. Jellikattu is one more ethical, it's a moral question. Animal rights versus.
We can take the reference of Jallikattu in the question of preserving the traditional social values.
Traditional social values. How? It's a continuation. You can say so.
It's more about how, sir. More about how we do it. How does
It's a custom. It's a custom and that is being practiced on a regular basis. It's a festival, right? Through festivals, we are continuing the tradition, social values. See, people wear different set of clothes. They meet elders, they learn respect and all these things only through festivals. So festivals are one way to continue the traditional social values. Again, it depends technically, are you writing about social values or all kind of values? Sandesh, reading papers yesterday? Anything interesting? There are a few more articles.
E-passports. Mediation was also one of the articles.
Arbitration, mediation.
there was
the parliamentary committee's recommendations.
JPC committee on data protection.
express by Rangarajan, but NFH.
National Family Health Survey. Okay. Read any of these articles? So again, going by the present standards of the mains papers, Indian Express explained and editorial section is also very good value addition. So my personal suggestion is you can throw out all the nation section news, which we will cover anyhow in one day in a week. Your core focus should be more or less on editorials and opinions. Again, the thing is you have to read and you have to write down certain keywords. Unless and until you don't do that, you are not going to get that flow. By the way, did you read that Ground Zero article? The Tamil Nadu murder case.
Oh, that day you said like
No?
like
Why? Forgot.
I will read.
So it was like Drishyam 2. Yes. So what did you learn, Bhuvishri? I think she can type, right? The major theme is reading the editorials and writing down the keywords and summarizing the things. Summarizing the things is very, very important. Young adult took law into their own hands. Okay. For me, the major takeaway is the disconnect between the parents and the kids, as young as 15-year-old and 14-year-old. Yes. So parents don't know what their children are doing. That is case with almost all the parents. We should not blame anyone, but at least thanks to technological access, now more young adults are having access to technology. 13, 14, 12. These are the ages where your mind is being shaped. In such a time, if you are having access to technology and you are meeting a lot of strangers online, so we are not even equipped or we don't even know what to tell to the kids what to do, what not to do. There is no discussion. There is no one to tell what is good, what is wrong. Yes, they used to chat online with strangers and they introduce their friends. It's so dramatic that some person they met online. The some person they met online. Okay, he starts blackmailing them, and they find someone else on this online to kill this guy, to beat this guy. Okay, so already you met a stranger, you entered into trouble. Now you are entering into one more anonymous relationship to fight someone else. Just imagine the web of complications that people are creating through online friendships. And there are groups, chats, Instagram messaging, so on and so forth. So all these things was zero clue. The parents had zero clue that all these things are happening in their lives. Only when the police knock at their door that the parents realize that their daughters are into such kind of trouble, right? So that is a really sad story, and that is happening in rural area. That is not even Chennai, or that is not some city in Tamil Nadu. That is some remote area in Tamil Nadu. If technology can create so much damage in a remote area in Tamil Nadu, just imagine what is happening in online world in throughout the country. We don't know how many other cases are happening like this. So probably it's time we introduce value based education through digital means, like what to do, to do's and not to do's online. At least some rule book, guidebook on how to deal with strangers on, as a kid you always thought, right? Don't talk to strangers, don't eat if a stranger gives you some candy. So I think that is something that we have to start teaching the kids on online education also. Okay, and due to COVID digital divide, every parent is bringing a smartphone and giving it to their kids. First 2 days studies, third day onwards, yes, that is also education according to them. Yes, again, we cannot blame them. Kids, they won't even know the entire story of the world. So what is the best way forward? So should companies have this thought process? Right? I think that analytical skill will be developed only once you start reading it on your own. Instead of relying on any third party information, the primary source should be editorials and opinion section within Hindu and Indian Express and explain articles. That is very, very important. What about ethics? Where do you stand in ethics? How many chapters done? Done. Done. 7th and first chapters are done. I think you will have Sankranti holidays also. So try to complete the ethics book in that gap. You won't have any classes or anything, right? So you can focus on completing that book, and it's a very easy book, right? It is not even complicated, very simple language. So by 17th or 18th, if you can complete the ethics, you will have a clear-cut idea on what is to be expected of ethics. Then discussions will be helpful to you, or else it will be like spoon feeding. You'll remember it on that one day. After 1 week, if I ask you, oh, that was there, I don't even remember.
After 1 week,
Yes. Honesty is the best policy. No? What about that is also going on? Everything is going on. How many of you are writing this year? Writing? Yes. 2023? All, both of you.
This year I'm not ready.
You'll write next year. Okay. If you have any questions, do let me know.
So where can we get the idea about the questions like difference between Himalayan landslides and Western Ghats? Because these are not available in particular source.
So see, when monsoons were happening, we have seen continuous stream of articles about Kerala floods. So during that time, you are supposed to develop an idea about the landslides within Himalayas. What are the issues? What are the reasons? Then during Uttarakhand, all those things were happening. There was a stream of articles which will explain to you Himalayan region, its landslides, and so on and so forth. So then it's your linking that is tested. See, if they ask you only about, let's say, Western Ghats landslides, probably some institute material or some institute test series have directly covered that question. But very few test series might have covered both, or they might have mentioned both of them as an example. Right? So that is why UPSC is trying to make it very difficult. It is testing whether you have mugged up the knowledge or you understood the knowledge.
The geographical aspect is what I'm facing problem about.
Again, during the same time, they will try to explain to you in explained articles or some infographic, right? How landslides are happening in Kerala. If you remember, I told you like liquefaction. There is a concept called as liquefaction, that slides will happen because of the water that is coming in Kerala. So like this, you need to develop holistic understanding. See, next year, the mains questions probably will be in these lines, right? How far do you think that pandemics are affecting Indian economy? Right? So you'll have a historical understanding of first wave, second wave, third wave. So is third wave going to affect Indian economy? Right? In second wave also, we have seen they did not impose proper lockdowns. It was a lockdown for the sake of lockdown. Till 1 p.m. you can roam. Then you cannot roam. So that is not a proper lockdown. Right? So how did that affect the economy? In the third wave, are we willing to choose, economy or lockdowns? So UPSC will ask that macro picture. So then when you write probably in 2023 or 2022, whatever, by that time 3 waves are passed away. So that's like a history for you. Probably we will be in 5th or 4th wave. So your mind will be focused on 4th wave, but the question will be on how did pandemic affect the economy. So you have to start from 1. So while 1 is happening, you are reading, but do you have clarity? You get the idea, right? So whatever is happening today, if you develop clarity today, that will help you one day. You may not realize it today, but it will help you one day. But while we are reading 1, if you are obsessed about something else, trivialities, then it won't give you a holistic knowledge. For example, how many times I must have mentioned V-shaped recovery, V-shaped recovery. There was a question, 10-marker question. Do you agree with the statement that there is a V-shaped recovery? What are your arguments? Right? So we know what is V-shaped recovery, but what are the reasons? Can you write it in bullet points? That is conceptual clarity that is tested by UPSC.
So does that answer expects us to produce the facts like pre and post within?
Definitely. It is a direct question from economic survey. So if you are actually writing mains this year, you will read economic survey, so you will have content. So that should not be a problem. But the thought process behind it is more important, right? That is what I'm saying. At least we should have that idea that V-shaped recovery is important. But why did we get V-shaped recovery? In rural economy, agriculture economy, also I told you multiple times that we have recovered because of rural economy. This time if rural economy is affected, V-shaped recovery may not be possible. So you should be able to quote all the data. The thing is, basically, most of you are trying to outsource the hard work. No? Not reading, not thinking, not asking hard questions, not with faculties, but with yourself. While you are reading that article, what are my major takeaways? How did this article change my perception towards the society? If this can happen in this particular remote place, is it happening elsewhere? What should be done? So all that questioning thought process is not there. You are just like, okay, I read something, fine. Unless and until you don't question yourself the tough questions, your thought process will be stagnant. There is a TV show called as Luke Cage. So in a barber shop, there is one person playing chess, a single person playing chess with himself, like there is no opponent. Then the Luke Cage, the character, walks besides him and he will ask, why are you playing chess alone all the time? Like, why are you playing chess alone all the time? Why don't you play with someone? So how does that help you playing? You know what you are going to play, right? Obviously, if I move this, I will move that. Then the person replies, if I know every move that I'm going to make, that will push me to think something new. Just think about the wisdom behind it. If I know every move that I'm going to make, okay, even I have to surprise my own self. Only when I surprise myself, I know that there is some new move, or I discovered some new move. So that pushing part comes only by playing alone. So the sheer wisdom in that line is really interesting, right? So I know every move that I'm going to make. Then if I have to really make some new move, I have to think more, break my comfort zone. As long as I don't break my comfort zone, earlier reading newspaper was a big pain. Now reading newspaper for the sake of reading is happening, but the comfort zone is reading. Okay, that much is being done. What should be done next? Questioning yourself the right questions, thinking all the right points. If you do that, I think there will be growth. Okay. Try to complete the book in the holidays. Till 16th, you have holidays, I guess. Yes, 17th, the institution will be reopened. So till then, if possible, complete DK biology. It's very easy to complete. Don't worry, we will have Zoom sessions either online or offline. Okay.
So does this happen like for anyone, like one subject taking a lot of time?
Everybody will have their own Battle of Waterloo.
This geography is this actually took like a lot of time.
Throw it away. Do something else.
But that baggage will be there, sir. Like doing.
There is no such thing as geography. Throw it away. Forget it. Do the rest of the things. Get perfect in whatever you are comfortable with. That means don't read only polity. Okay. Read every subject possible. Keep pushing, right? See, we don't have the luxury of stagnating. We have to keep pushing ourselves. Give 10 minutes to geography every day or 30 minutes to geography every day. Who? You need to know geography on June 4th, before June 4th, not tomorrow. So even if you read half an hour every day, by June 4th, I think you will be very comfortable in geography. What needs to change is not geography, your perception towards geography. So read, give it a break, probably read again, then again you might feel it more comfortable. It's like making that, mango pickle. They don't directly put the mango in the oil and the powder, right? They cut it, they dry it, then they make the oil soak. Slowly it will become the pickle. The same way, if you are not comfortable with any one subject, Read it, take a break, let it sink in. When give some break. When you come back, when you read it, probably new insights might be formed subconsciously. Yes. So without giving time, no, you're not sinking it. Please go inside, go inside. Don't go. Sometimes when you give break, actually you understand things much better. When you come back, now it makes more sense. Now it makes more sense, not because of you are in clarity. You slowly understood the concept subconsciously. It is making more sense. Keep pushing yourself. That is the most important thing. Everyone geography only. 2 people geography. Then for you also geography. Problematic subject. Economics. Polity is difficult subject. First time in history. History, geography and economy. Medieval history. There is no medieval. There is only ancient India. History and economy. You didn't yes. Raghunath? Which subject is your difficult subject? There is no such thing. IR. Okay. Okay. So IR means you find IR difficult.
Actually, I wanted to start this PSI. I opened OP Java and this Super sheet. I just confused from where to start what to do. The syllabus copy mentioned something, and that book is
Having something else.
Something like that.
Economy. How many of you find economy difficult? Didn't started reading, so no problem.
Bush raised hand there.
So there is NIOS material, National Institute of Open School. NIOS material. So it is made for school kids. I think if you read it, you should be able to comfortably understand basic economics. NIOS, National Institute of Open Schooling material. Yes. And perception problem. You should not think of Indian economy as some subject. You should think it as a learning curve. Like you don't know some knowledge, you focus more on that.
It's very practical.
Practical application part. You have to take Maggie packets and apply the economics. If demand for Maggie increases, what will happen? Prices will increase or decrease, right? So no. And again, as I said, it's the right attitude that will help you clear prelims, but not the knowledge. Trust me. You will understand it only when you sit in the exam hall. It's like saying if you catch that wire, you'll get the current shock. Okay, all of you know that much. Catching the wire and feeling the jolt is one thing, and thinking that it will be like a shock is one more thing. So right attitude, right perception about the subject is what is going to help you. Nothing else. You don't clear prelims by knowledge. You clear prelims through attitude.
So what does it mean? So when we are studying itself, we feel that we should catch the fire and start studying. I need to understand.
That is exactly what I said.
That is the word you said.
Yes, exactly. You are the only person who understood it like perfectly. I hate geography, ancient and medieval. But I understood them. I cleared them. Okay, but I don't love them. It's like
It's not interesting as much as political economy.
The problem is application. The reason I chose current affairs as a subject to teach is because it allows the dynamism every day.
Yes.
I cannot say fundamental rights for 1,000 times every time. I will be bored to death. So my personal thought process is more about adding value. So I will stagnate if I teach one thing. So I used to teach economy. I used to teach polity. I thought almost all the subjects. Then I finally decided happy with current affairs because it keeps me sane. Okay. So the simplest thing to do is read NIOS. And in medieval history, don't worry, there is no urgency.
So even going through that NCRT is like scary, sir.
Your problem is perception. You are trying to remember everything. Your job is to just read what happened in medieval. This person killed that person, then they all collaborated, they killed this, then the Golcondas were formed, like the dilution of this, then the Marathas rise. So it's a theme that you are supposed to know. First of all, if someone says medieval, do you know the macro theme? What happened in medieval? What happened in ancient? What happened in modern? So to reach 1857, do you know the story? That's the only thing you need to remember. Numbers, whose names, who did what, not at all important. Again, as I said, we start with a wrong perception, right? Then the subject becomes a headache. Yes.
R.S. Sharma or 11th NCERT, Tamil Nadu?
Both.
Ancient.
11th class NCERT, R.S. Sharma, Satish Chandra.
Satish Chandra is medieval.
All three.
R.S. Sharma plus Tamil Nadu
NCERT.
Both
plus Satish Chandra plus Bipin Chandra first 7 chapters, then Bipin Chandra textbook. If possible, spectrum. Yes. Themes are also very good. Themes in modern Indian history 1 to 3. Those books are also very good. So history is probably the only subject where you read a lot of books, but it will act like a revision. Yes. Suggested.
Still, some questions are like something else only. The name of the place in 2021 paper. Yeah,
That is not the benchmark.
The Vijayanagara Empire.
Again, that is not the benchmark. You will realize one day. Not now. Don't keep 2021 paper in the mind.
The art and culture is becoming very unpredictable. Art and culture in ancient India. Some new position like they'll give a name and then we have to find it. What is the correct match of that position? And these are not mentioned somewhere in the books.
That clarity comes only after reading. So you'll use it for elimination. So again, just like essay paper, somebody went to exam hall reading what I told you to read, and they cleared prelims. Not because the questions came from what they have read. At least they know what not to attempt.
And what is regarding the attitude to work? What exactly?
Again, it's wisdom, right? It is something that cannot be conveyed. I can transfer knowledge, I cannot transfer wisdom.
Exactly, sir. What is the perception of the correct perception?
Yeah, I will try to tell you in the simplest terms. You don't clear prelims by knowledge. Okay, you clear prelims by attitude.
How to set the right attitude.
So your job is nishkama karma. Okay. You are supposed to read eight standard books for 8 subjects. Okay. You are supposed to solve 2,500 previous questions. When you do all these things in reality, okay, when you are able to answer any question from the standard sources in actuality, that means you are not confused with monetary policy or application or anything. If a question comes from standard source, if you can attempt it, okay, that creates an attitude of positive thought process. Okay, based on that, if you see anything in the question paper, you will be in a position to attempt it and not attempt it. Again, that's a very false myth that has been promoted. You're all worried about the art and culture question, but I will show you 45 questions within the paper which came from the very, very static sources that we are discussing. So 90 questions or 90 marks of you will be correct if you even attempt those questions correctly. Okay, 45 plus 30 more, let's say 70 or 75. Okay, 45 plus 30, 75 questions, right? So if your attempt is 75 in 2021 paper and you got only less than 10 mistakes correctly, you will still have clear prelims, right? Cutoff is hardly 92, 94. So less than 50 questions you have to get correctly. So out of 75, even if your mistakes are 10, you will still happily, comfortably clear prelims. But the thing is, people worry about, see, the 25 questions you are not even supposed to touch. The 25 questions you are not even supposed to touch. But the average attempt in last year is 90. Majority of the students attempted 90 plus questions. Out of them, majority got 35 plus wrong. Okay, you are thrown into this side of the coin. Those who got 30 wrongs, they crossed the prelims. So you did not clear prelims by your correct questions. You cleared prelims by less wrongs, right? So that less wrongs come only through attitude. You will be in a position to judge which questions to leave, which questions to attempt. Okay, why am I applying this question? Or what weird logic am I applying? I have never heard about Kalyana Mandapas, about Vijayanagara whatsoever. Then that's a wrong attitude. Vijayanagara, the first thing that comes to mind is Kalyana Mandapas. Okay, then you are using that Kalyana Mandapas logic to come to some conclusion. Okay, if Kalyana Mandapas exist, this might also exist. That is why it is correct. That positive attitude. Okay, so you got less negatives. You cleared prelims. So stop thinking prelims in the positive terms. Okay, the 45 questions that you got correct, you have to get them correct. Okay, so all the 10,000 people who cleared prelims got the 45 questions of the static correct. That means their static is what saved them. That's first thing. That comes only through practice and confidence. Next is the ability to throw stones. Okay, stone throwing is an attitude. Should I throw stones on this question? I have never ever heard about this. Should I take the risk? Does it sound commonsensical? That is something that I cannot teach you, right? Okay, so people who cleared prelims last time got less negatives, less than 30 negatives. People who failed prelims got more than 30 negatives. That is the only difference between them. 5 negatives here, you are out. 5 negatives less, you are in. So why did you get that 5 negatives less? In the exam hall, you did not panic. I read Nitin Singhania, Nitin Sangwan, I read class notes, I read everything. Still art and culture question, I don't know. Should I attempt it? Should I not attempt it? If I have to attempt it, am I having some basis? Do I know some Kalyana Mandapas? Do I know Bharatanatyam? Do I know Kathakali? Do I know what? Do I know them? Like know them? Or do I know them just for knowing them? Right? So if you have that kind of confidence, then you will think, you know, if I don't know this, nobody probably will know. Okay, but still C sounds logical. There is a question, I think, about Ashoka. Okay, in 2021 films or 2020 films, I don't remember. There is a question about Ashoka. Student have read all the static books he's supposed to read. He have solved all the mocks he's supposed to solve. Still the question is about a bouncer. Okay, but the option somehow sounds familiar and it must be about Ashoka. Why did I choose Ashoka? I don't know. I kept Ashoka. I came out and the answer is Ashoka. Right? So why Ashoka?
After solving so many questions from intuition forms.
Exactly. So that is an attitude, right? That is a thought process. That intuition. See, even today when a student comes to me and says, sir, what might be the answer? See, I don't know why. Subconsciously, I will go for that particular option and most of the times it will be correct. I won't claim that by knowledge, some intuition, somewhere, some microscopically I have heard about it, listened about it, eliminated it. I don't know. That intuition is some hunch. And that can only come with your static confidence. Right? That is what I keep on saying, attitude. I cannot teach people common sense. There were some seniors in your previous batches also. They have solved more questions than most people. They have revised the books most time than more people. They have even revised Disha for 5 times, 6 times. Okay, but still they did not clear prelims. I used to always tell the same thing. You won't clear prelims, not because of, you know, lack of knowledge. You won't clear prelims because of lack of attitude. When you go to the exam hall, if you don't believe that you are the boss, that, you know, you will clear it, You will always have a defeatist attitude, and your negatives will obviously higher. Until date, that person did not clear prelims. Definitely, that person have more knowledge than almost all the previous batches. But the unfortunate reality is, you don't clear this exam only by knowledge.
Like confidence.
It's everything. Attitude is like whole personality, right? You need to have that courage to take that risk. So if I have to drown, why not drown heroically? Why play timid?
Everything comes up.
Right? Anyhow, I will fail. If I attempt 50, I know I will fail. Okay, so why not attempt 90 and fail? At least it will be glorious. So if I attempted 90, luckily somehow through my intuition, I attempted less negatives. Everybody attempted 35 negatives. I attempted 32 negatives. I mean, khatam. But that is something that cannot be taught. Student will always be in the mindset, I wrote a mock, I got 50, I got 60, I got 90. God cannot save you. I cannot save you. See, if God cannot save you, definitely I cannot save you, right? That is why I say everyone, don't focus on scores. Prelims is not about scores. Prelims has nothing to do with scores. Prelims is purely attitude. Prelims is purely that mental maturity and that ability to take that leap of faith. If you don't know that, seeing the paper, seeing the difficulty of the paper, if you don't know how many questions to attempt, then itself you are eliminated. If you go to the exam hall and you see a very difficult paper, I will attempt only 60, that you are out already. Right? So all these things cannot be thought, right? Because no mark will be equal to UPSC marks.